This is Jim Fetzer with James Fetzer News with my special guest, Jerry Mazza, a freelance writer, lifelong resident in New York City, who has a new book, State of Shock, Poems from 9/11 On. And today we're talking about an article he has just published, a real dazzler. Dr. Cass Sunstein wants to turn off your lights. Jerry, tell us about Cass Sunstein.
Well, he's a Harvard professor, believe it or not. And you would think that this is the kind of person that would be a Jim Fetzer, open to new ideas, old ideas, different ideas, advanced ideas, conspiracy theories, non-conspiracy theories, and such. But he doesn't. In fact, he's got himself a little gig here as the czar of information. And more specifically, he would like to, I read this, ban conspiracy theorizing, and the government might impose a tax, financial, otherwise, to just tell you to shut up and go away, and make it illegal, believe it or not, to have political opinions that the government doesn't approve of. So where do you go with this?
Jerry, I thought we had something called the First Amendment here in the United States. Sounds like this guy may come from Harvard Law, but he's out to subvert the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of these guys who's realized that there's a future in being a creep. That is, in turning himself into some anti-intellectual, anti-freedom, anti-speech, free speech, anti-everything, to grab himself some power. And Obama's gone right along with him and given him the position, what's the official language here, of head of information technology in the White House for conspiracy.
Jerry, that's a joke, right? That's not a real title. That's a.
No, I mean, it sounds like one of those titles from Charlie Chaplin's movie, The Great Dictator.
This is Orwellian. You got a guy who's the head of information technology for conspiracy theories?
That's right. They're looking for conspiracy theorists, and we will find them. I mean, you know, if it wasn't so tragic, it would be funny, but it's both. And also, he proposes specific things that if you and I are talking now, when this becomes part of your blog, little pop-ups should come up and lead you to contra theories, conspiracy theories.
So, in other words, he's going to tell us what we should think and about what. Is that it?
Right. Dr. Sunstein would like to turn your light off.
This is unbelievable, Jerry. I take it he subsumes within his domain the assassination of JFK, 9/11, and even global warming. I mean, how does he know the difference between the true and the false regarding the assassination of JFK, for example?
Well, that's a wonderful question, Jim. I wish that he could answer it. In fact, Joseph Watson pointed out, the 1998 CBS poll found just 10% of Americans believe that Oswald acted alone. So apparently the other 90% of Americans could be committing some form of thought crime by thinking otherwise under Sunstein's definition. Wonderful statement.
Well, this is pretty bizarre, Jerry. I published 3 books on JFK. I produced a 4.5-hour documentary. I've chaired or co-chaired 4 national conferences. We've discovered that JFK was hit 4 times, once in the throat from in front, once in the back from behind, and twice in the head, once from in front and once from behind. How could that have been done by this lone assassin?
Well, I think we've gone beyond reason here, which is why this subhead in my story is Memories of Goebbels.
He was a good guy, right? This Goebbels guy, he was a guy who was all for freedom of speech and equal opportunity and justice.
Right. And he was operating as Hitler's information minister and in charge of shutting people up. And in my story, I quote from his New Year's address in 1938 on December 31st, recalling repeatedly that Austria had been incorporated into Germany, despite his claim that complainers are not worth dealing with. He devotes a major part of his speech to denouncing those who fail to share his faith in Adolf Hitler.
Jerry,
we are today's complainers.
Jerry, if Goebbels is to Hitler as Sunstein is to, what does that tell us about Barack Obama?
That tells us that Hitler lives. That tells us that the spirit of people like Hitler lives somehow in what seem to be educated, enlightened people. That all of their education, all of their enlightenment has been for naught. They've turned out to be tyrants. And, anything goes.
This sounds like a guy who wants to turn the Constitution on its head, Jerry.
Well, I think that is his attempt, definitely. There's a First Amendment of freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And to offer up consequences like being fined or denied access to the internet for common causes, even such as does the sunshine cause cancer? That's another thing. If you disagree with that, you can get knocked off the internet, thrown into jail. And what's even equally frightening is that he has a comrade in arms, which is Elena Kagan, who is up for Supreme Court justice, who argues that government can ban books and political pamphlets. Wonderful, wonderful.
You're kidding me. Kagan, who comes from Harvard Law, she was a dean there, believes in book banning, pamphlet burning, thought control. Jerry, what's become of this country?
I don't know. Tom Paine must be turning over in his grave. I mean, a Supreme Court justice banning books and pamphlets because they irritate some people. I mean, didn't Hegel write about the dialectic of history, that you have a thesis, you have one theory, you have an antithesis, which is a contra theory, and then you have a synthesis of theories, which is really what history is about. Yeah, if we cut all that off, if we cut open debate off, and there is no response, then we have total stagnation and a kind of endless tyranny of thought. Jerry, and that is the larger implication of all of this.
Jerry, I thought it was our God-given right as Americans to criticize our government, our president, the policies, the actions of our nation. If he take that away from us, what does it mean to be an American anymore?
It means nothing. It means nothing. We're back to day one, and the colonists protesting against the actions of King George in England, that there wouldn't be freedom without there wouldn't be taxation without representation, and that arbitrary taxes could not be put on their goods to support the Dutch East India Company, which was the corporate end of the monarchy. So we would have abolished all of the progress that we've made as a nation and supposedly the paradigm of the world, which is a joke, in terms of democracy and freedom of speech. And also, in the Goebbels section of my article, I talked about how the Nazis, Goebbels used the burning of the Reichstag as a reason to blame on the communists, and they took this poor left-wing guy who was partially sighted and somewhat demented, blamed it all on him, and beheaded him, tried and beheaded him.
You know, Jerry, when W said in response to a staff member suggesting that an action he wanted to take was unconstitutional, that the Constitution was just a goddamn piece of paper, I thought we were getting some sort of restoration of a constitutional footing for this nation by electing Obama, given his background, but it looks as though I was sadly mistaken.
Well, he talks the talk, but he doesn't walk the walk. And there is a reverend from Harlem who wants to put him on trial for his association with the CIA when he was a student in Columbia. Hey, that's a conspiracy theory, Sunstein, if you're listening, but it can be documented. And also that he did some work with the Taliban in Afghanistan in 1981. That's another conspiracy theory.
Jerry Mazza, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. Your article is very refreshing and sheds a lot of light in the darkness for a guy who wants to turn out the lights. Thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you.